Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is becoming America's next Health and Human Services Secretary after a Senate vote to confirm him.
I'm going to do everything I can to work with you, whether you're Democrat or Republican, to restore child's health in this country.
Known not only as the nephew of the late President John F. Kennedy and son of U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, RFK Jr. is probably best known now for his anti-vaccine stance, his nomination resulting in an emotional week of congressional hearings.
So please do not suggest that anybody in this body of either political party doesn't want to know what the cause of autism is.
After a dramatic congressional hearing that debated vaccination policy, another huge domino effect to watch for is what's next with U.S. food policy. Local businesses who produce and sell the actual real ingredients every day are definitely monitoring this news. Well, welcome to the Small Business is All Business video series. Today I'm here with Michelle Briggs, and where are we, Michelle?
Nature's Pantry in State College, Pennsylvania.
So we're a family-owned, independently, 3 generations of our family work here, and we are a separate entity, but we do belong to a group called Infra, which is a cooperative group of independently owned stores across the country.
So, Michelle, what questions about the food supply and what conversations are you having about the food supply with your customer base currently?
So currently people are concerned about, what's going to happen if regulations change, whether they're going to be able to get the foods that they want.
Well, people are concerned about, if this is going to add cost, like tariffs are going to add cost to the commodities, which it's definitely going to change. And how it is, I don't know. We're all waiting to see what's going to happen. My husband's a farmer. My husband grows all the grass-fed beef that we sell here. We have no idea what's going to happen as far as how that's going to change the grain supplies, the beef supply. It's definitely going to make some changes, and I think it's going to drive up costs is what I think is going to happen, but, it remains to be seen. I think changes in ingredients take a really long time to happen. If they impose tariffs, that's like an almost immediate effect. So, it will remain to be seen what if RFK gets confirmed, whether he will be able to push through the things he wants, because the people who are backing the Republican Party right now have the interests of big ag in their sights. So, that's big ag doesn't like these changes.
Despite those rocky moments regarding vaccination policy, the scales seemed to tip in RFK Jr.'s favor when it came to his attitude about food policy. Many senators said outright that they were concerned about the anti-vaxxer stuff, but loved the disruptor attitude when it came to America's over-reliance on over-processed foods. For his part, RFK Jr. not mincing words about America's food supply.
We're having epidemics of all these chronic illnesses, autoimmune diseases, neurological diseases, allergic diseases, obesity. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans were obese. Today, 74% of Americans are obese or overweight. No other country has anything like this. In Japan, the obesity rate is still 3%. And epidemics are not caused by genes. Genes may provide the vulnerability, but you need an environmental toxin. Something is poisoning the American people. And we know that the primary culprits are changing food supply, the switch to highly chemical intensive processed foods. We have 10,000 ingredients in our country, in our foods. The Europeans have only 400.
Shortly before the Trump administration returned to the White House, the FDA officially banned Red 40 food dye. It's a synthetic food dye that's made from petroleum and oils. With newfound focus on America's food policy on a federal level, what, if any, impact will this have on our local businesses?
It's a battle for every ingredient they ban, because there's always a big lobby of some big food company who is using these products that doesn't want to change their formulas and don't want to make those changes. So, it's a slow uphill battle ingredient by ingredient. Most of it is consumer demand, like, hydrogenated oils, trans fats, like people don't want those anymore. And so if they stop buying the product, they change the products to get people to come back and buy their product. So a lot of companies have stopped using trans fats in their products because the consumer doesn't want it anymore. And then again, it shortens the shelf life. So that's one of the things about trans fats. You throw it in a product and it'll last forever, but so you have to adjust your expectation of how long you can take those cookies home and stick them on your pantry before they go bad. So
Michelle says there is a trend where younger families want to feed their kids healthier, less processed foods. However, she says the divide between the natural food stores and mainstream grocers, well, that divide is widening.
Part of it's consumer demand. Something has changed since the pandemic as far as what grocery stores. I think the grocery stores have cut back on their natural foods and just stuck with the things that they sell the most of. And so they sell less of natural foods. So that's been pushed back into the natural food store. So it's been good for us, actually. The true natural organic things that you actually have to cook, like there's less of that in the grocery stores. They've done away with their bulk departments, so whole grains, you're either buying them packaged or, like I said, just less selection of that stuff in general. Natural food store isn't any different than any other grocery store. Stay on the periphery. That's where all the good stuff is.
Michelle has been running this business since the mid-90s and says her customers aren't into the fad diets.
The things that have changed, don't really affect us because we're not playing in their ball field most of the time. We're doing our own thing. So, we weren't carrying hydrogenated oils. We aren't carrying things with artificial colors, artificial flavors. Parabens were off our list long before this even became a thing that people are concerned about. Like, people are like, do you have anything with parabens? You never have. So, it isn't necessarily something that we confront on a day-to-day basis because we've already removed those things out of our product lineup. Right now, our grass-fed beef is huge. We've just had a lot of interest in that to the point that we can't produce enough to keep it in stock.
Those are some happy cows.
This brings us to America's heartland and the state of Kansas, the country's #2 beef producer after Texas. According to the latest Census of Agriculture data, Kansas alone recorded $13.6 billion in cattle sales in 2022. A majority of cattle farms are still family-owned in America. And, like most, JD Cattle Company here in Kansas is constantly adapting to carve out their chunk of that revenue.
25 years ago, we started the ranch and got into hay production and sales, and then cattle production, and then even selling beef directly to the customer. We did that for a number of years. We started doing that prior to the pandemic. During the pandemic, the interest and demand skyrocketed for local beef. One of those was the obvious reason as the shortages in the grocery stores, but people also were really interested in the quality and the purity of it. And it really took off, and it flooded the market, and nobody could keep up. The local processors couldn't keep up. They were booking out for over a year in advance. But as time goes on and the markets restabilized, the supply reappeared in the grocery stores, and it does seem to be that as people's available income started to go down, it's not that their concern for the quality and safety of the food decreased, but I think people's financial situation governs their choices more so than their ideals, and the viability of selling beef directly to the customer started plummeting. The prices were increasing due to the cost of the feed and the fertilizers and the cost of the processing, and the price in the grocery stores were going down. People's interest in trying to buy that just wasn't there anymore. Coincidentally, at the same time, the price of the live cattle at the market started to skyrocket to prices we'd never seen before. So we were able to shift the focus.
Dave Monroe says he switched his focus from selling meat directly to the consumer to auctioning live animals and instead focusing on his automotive business. His inexplicable drop in business perhaps doesn't speak to every American cattle producer, but it does speak to a different kind of volatility for this generation of ag businesses. A volatility that has nothing to do with weather patterns. Although, as you know, the weather has been wild as well. This era's ag business has endured a global pandemic, trade war worries, and an impressionable consumer whose demand can change on a dime, and with one viral video.
Coconut cult is huge. That went crazy on TikTok, so that's been huge. Well, I don't even know who started the trend with it, but it's just very much a young college-age girl trend with coconut cult. You do a spoonful of every day, and they all video themselves taking a spoonful every day, and so that's become quite the phenomenon. And again, the company can't even keep up with producing enough to get it to us. Like, we get it erratically. Hopefully we get some this week because we haven't had any for 4 days.
You know, it seems as though, I don't mean to sound derogatory, but people are somewhat fickle. I mean, they do get an idea in their head and they'll stick with it knowing it's better. But as I said, there's rises and falls, and it has, I think, more to do with what's really available to them economically, more so than what's best. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a spur in the market again, bringing it back to the forefront and having it a topic on the news. You know, in a reduction in toxicity and such in the overall food, and even in possibly in the food supply from large producers, you would think, instill confidence in that as a product. But it doesn't mean it still won't remind people that, hey, I wanted to buy from the local guy, and that really was better. So any advertisement perhaps is good advertisement. Disruption does create volatility, but sometimes that's necessary. You know, I do sincerely believe there's an unacceptable level of toxins in different aspects of our food supply, and I'd like to see them gone myself. But that's definitely going to change the way things are done and the way things are looked. It very likely could cause prices to increase, at least temporarily. But if that's a matter of keeping you out of the doctor, you not getting cancer, you living longer, to me that would be a small price to pay.
For the Small Business is All Business video series, I am Matt DeSarl. Subscribe on YouTube for more reports like this and to watch extras from this episode. Thanks for watching.